In this video, we'll discuss how you can display list controls inside the disclosures that a control bar displays. So you can see here we have a simple UX component with a control bar in the panel header and then a control bar in the panel footer. And when I press this button in the control bar in the header, you can see that a list is displayed over here, and this list is a scrollable list. And then if I tap on a row, the disclosure is closed. Then if I click on this button over here, another list is displayed, but this time the list appears to be inside a floating window. But again, it's just simply a list that is displayed inside a disclosure. And you can see that in the case of the first list, the list basically does not extend on top of the footer, so it doesn't obscure the footer. So let's go now and take a look at how this was done. But before doing that, let's notice here that inside this list over here, we've got inside the list header over here, we've injected some content from a injectable content container. So let's go back now to the component and see how the component itself was designed. So here's the component, and you can see that we have our panel card, and then inside the panel card in the panel header we have a control bar, and then in the panel footer we also have a control bar, and then we have some injectable content. So the first injectable content section over here contains a list control that has some static data. It has the customer data from the Northwinds sample table. Then we have some injectable content here, which is just some text, and this injectable content here is going to be injected into the fixed header of this list over here. And then we have another list over here which is displaying data from a SQL database. Actually, let's change it from a SQL database to some static text. So we'll go there and convert this over to some static JSON. So now here's the data that we're displaying over there. We have basically a list of countries, and within each country we have some cities. And then you can see here's our list layout. We're just displaying the city. We've turned off the column heading. So if we go here and search for titles, you can see in this one we've actually gone here and turned off the column titles. We've turned that off over there, and then we've specified that this list is sorted by city and country, by country and city, and then we have a group break on the country field. So this list is grouped by country, and then we've also basically said that the list can only scroll in the y-axis direction, and we did the same thing for list number 1 as well. So these are the two lists that we'd like to display in the control bar disclosure over here. So let's go now to this control bar, and we can see that if we go to items, we have two disclosure buttons, and the first disclosure button is going to display disclosure number 1. The display type, we've chosen extend element. We've set the size to fill, and then we've set the bottom margin to 0.5 inches, and we did that so that when the list opens up, it does not obscure the footer. So that's how we basically did the first list. And then for the second list, we've been essentially very similar. We've set that this time that the disclosure name is disclosure number 2. We've set the display type again to extend element and then fill, and then we've set basically margins of 0.5 on the top, 1 inch on the bottom, and then 0.5 on the left and the right, to give the appearance that the disclosure is displayed in a window. Now let's go to the disclosure tab and look at how the disclosures were defined. So you can see here that the first disclosure has been set to injectable content, and we've set the injectable container name to injectable 1, and then we've done for a similar thing for disclosure number 2. We've said that the type is a injectable container, and we've specified that this time the injectable container name is injectable number 3. So let's pause now and pick this up in the next video. So we're continuing now discussing how to display list controls inside the disclosures that are shown by control bars. And then in the case of this second button, which opens up the list control in what appears to be a floating window, we can see now that the way that this is done, if we go back to the control bar builder over here, we'll see that for the second disclosure over here, we've specified that this disclosure has a class name of list in window. And then if we go over to the CSS for list in window, you can see that we've specified that we have a 1 pixel border that is gray. We've set 3 pixels for padding. We've set a border radius of 10 pixels. We've defined a box shadow that is 10 pixels wide, and then we've set a margin of 12 pixels. If we didn't set this margin, then the box shadow wouldn't actually display because it would have been outside of the disclosure. So we need to basically move the content inside the disclosure in by 12 pixels on each side so that the actual drop shadow, the drop shadow will display. So let's go again now and take a look at this. So here we go. When we click on the button, the disclosure is displayed inside a floating window, and the list itself, you can see, is still grouped by city, by country, and then it's scrollable. So finally, you can also see that when I tap on a row in the disclosure, the disclosure closes. And the way that that was done is by going to the on-click event in the list. So you can see here's the list events over there, and in the on-click event we get a pointer to the control bar, and then we just call the control bar's hide disclosure method. So that basically will cause the disclosure to close when I click on a list row. So in this video we've shown how easy it is to add list controls inside the disclosures that are displayed by a control bar. Thanks very much for watching.